My name's Ryan, I'm 27, and for the last 8 months, I've been working my tail off at a warehouse job, picking up every double shift they give me. That's 10, sometimes 12 hours on my feet, dragging pallets, loading trucks, sorting inventory, and then coming home just in time to crash on the couch with whatever leftover food I could microwave before passing out. I wasn't doing it for a promotion or to climb some corporate ladder. I was doing it for her. Emily. She was my girlfriend of 3 years. We met in college, fell hard, and moved in together not long after we graduated. I thought we were building a life. You know, the kind of life where you scrape by together when things are tight, but still find time to hold hands in the kitchen or laugh about dumb movies when you're both too tired to do anything else. We've been through some stuff, don't get me wrong. Her mom never liked me, thought I was beneath her daughter, whatever that means. She came from a cushy suburban family. I came from a blue-collar one. My dad's a mechanic, my mom cleans houses, and I've been working since I was 16. Not glamorous, but it taught me what it means to show up and provide. And I wanted to provide for Emily. Our third anniversary was coming up in April, and I had this whole plan. I saved for months to take her on a surprise trip to Vermont, cute cabin, fireplace, snowy trees, the whole cozy vibe. I even bought her this necklace she'd been eyeing for months at this little boutique downtown. Silver with a tiny crescent moon charm. She's always loved moon phases and stuff like that. I hadn't told her about any of it. I wanted it to be a surprise. She always said I was predictable, too routine, so I thought this would show her that I could be spontaneous too. I was pouring everything I had into it. My time, my energy, my money, all to give us something special. Something that would remind us both why we fell in love in the first place. She'd been distant lately, I won't lie. On her phone a lot more. Going out with her new friends from work. She said I was being clingy when I asked about it, so I backed off. Figured maybe she just needed space. So last week, I got lucky. My manager gave me a random afternoon off. First time in a while. I thought, what better chance to set up part of the surprise? Maybe start packing, light a few candles, cook her dinner for once instead of just passing out. I stopped by the bakery near our place and picked up her favorite lemon tart, then headed home, thinking I'd catch her just before she got back from work. But when I walked in, something felt off. The living room was quiet, but I could hear voices from the bedroom. At first, I thought she was on the phone. Her voice was lighter than usual, kind of giggly in that way she used to talk to me when we first started dating. But then I heard another voice. A guy's. And my stomach sank. I didn't storm in or yell. I just stood there, frozen, listening. I remember holding the box with the lemon tart in it like it weighed 50 pounds. I wish I hadn't heard what came next. She laughed, really laughed, that carefree kind of laugh she hadn't given me in months, and said, "He's a try-hard loser with nothing going for him. I'm just using him until something better comes along." The guy snorted. "You're still with him?" "Only until after the trip. I think he's planning something stupid and romantic. He's always trying so hard to impress me, it's actually kind of pathetic." I didn't hear anything else after that. I didn't need to. I walked out the door, lemon tart still in hand, and just started walking. I didn't even know where I was going. I ended up at this little park by the river where we used to sit during our first year together. I sat on a bench and just stared at the water. It was still half frozen, with chunks of ice drifting by, and I felt numb. Not angry. Not sad. Just emptied out. After maybe an hour, I stood up, took out my phone, and blocked her on everything. No dramatic goodbye. No confrontation. Just silence. I figured if she wanted to use me, she could do it alone from now on. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of a fight. But that's not the end of it. That was 5 days ago. Since then, my phone hasn't stopped buzzing, not from her, because she's blocked, but from our mutual friends. People I haven't heard from in months are suddenly texting me. "Hey man, Emily's trying to get in touch with you. She's really upset. She didn't mean what she said, it was taken out of context. You owe her a conversation at least." I owe her? That's rich. One of my old roommates, Josh, even called me and said, "Bro, she's been calling everyone. Crying. Said you just vanished. What happened?" I told him what I heard. I didn't even embellish it, I just repeated her words. There was a long silence on the phone, and then he let out this low whistle. "Dude," he said, "that's cold." Now, here's where things start to twist in a way I wasn't expecting. Emily's mom, who always treated me like I was lucky to breathe the same air as her daughter, called my mother. My mother. Told her I was being immature, that I needed to be a man and talk things through. That Emily was in a vulnerable state, and my disappearing act was emotional abandonment. My mom, bless her, is the kind of person who believes in keeping peace, even when people don't deserve it. She asked me to come over so we could talk. She said she didn't want to take sides, just wanted to understand. So I did. I sat down with her, and my dad explained the whole thing. Told them about the shifts, the surprise, the lemon tart. Then I told them what I heard. I kept it together until I got to the line about being a try-hard loser. That one stung. I looked up and saw my dad's jaw clench, which he almost never does. She said that, he asked. Yeah. He stood up, walked out of the room, and I heard the garage door open. Later I found out he'd taken a hammer to the necklace I bought and tossed it in the trash. Since then, things have snowballed. Emily's friends are split. Some think I'm being overly dramatic, and that people say things they don't mean in private. Others, especially the ones who know me better, are staying quiet. One of them, Sarah, messaged me late at night. I always thought she didn't deserve you. You were too good for her. But it's not just Emily anymore. Her mom has now started messaging people from my side of the family. My cousin Jenna sent me a screenshot of a Facebook message from her, calling me unstable and vindictive. Said I was turning everyone against her daughter out of spite. So now I'm at a crossroads. I know Emily's going to keep trying to worm her way back in. I know her mom is going to keep poisoning the well. And I know my family, some of them, at least, are going to start wondering if I'm the one overreacting. But I've got a plan. And it starts with someone I haven't spoken to in almost a year. You might remember earlier I said Emily had been hanging around her new work friends a lot. One of them is a guy named Brandon. Tall, clean-cut, real smooth talker. She mentioned him a few times casually, always with that fake nonchalance like she was trying too hard to make it sound like he didn't matter. Well, Brandon and I used to be close. Way back. Long before he and Emily worked together. And I've got a feeling he knows more than he's letting on. I'm about to send him a message. I stared at Brandon's contact for a solid 10 minutes before finally typing out the message. I didn't want to sound hostile. I didn't want to accuse. I wanted him to talk, to want to talk. So I went with something simple. Hey man. Weird question, but you got time to chat about Emily? He replied in under 5 minutes. Sure. What's up? We met at this quiet little coffee shop on the edge of town where no one really goes on weekday afternoons. I got there early and sat facing the door, hands wrapped around a coffee I wasn't drinking. I hadn't seen Brandon in almost a year, not since he started posting all those happy hour photos with Emily and her crew. It stung at first, seeing them get closer while I was buried in warehouse shifts, but I trusted her. I chose to trust her. When he walked in, he looked just a little too surprised to see me. Not nervous, exactly, but off. Like someone caught off guard in a dream. He gave me a quick bro hug, sat down across from me, and tapped the table twice like he was waiting for the music to start. So, he said, dragging the word out like it would buy him time. You and Emily, you guys okay? I laughed once. Flat. Cold. Not really. You know about that. He blinked. Well, no. I mean, not directly. She hasn't said anything to me since last week. But I heard she's been freaking out. Yeah, I said. She's been blowing up everyone but me. He looked away and scratched the back of his neck. So what's going on? I took a breath. She said some things. Thought I wasn't home. Called me a loser. Said she's just using me until something better comes along. His eyes flicked back to mine, then quickly down to his coffee. No shock. No denial. Just silence. You don't seem surprised, I said. He paused. Then, look, Ryan. I didn't want to be the one to tell you this. I really didn't. My heart dropped into my stomach. I already knew where this was going, but hearing it would be a whole other level. She's been different lately, he said, speaking carefully like every word was a minefield. At first, I thought she was just going through a rough patch with you, and I tried to stay out of it. But a couple months ago, she started talking like she already had one foot out the door. Like she was just waiting for the right moment. I didn't speak. I just nodded for him to keep going. She flirted a lot. With everyone. But especially with this guy in marketing, Travis. Total sleaze. Always bragging about his money, his condo, whatever. Emily started hanging out with him after work. At first it seemed casual. But then I caught them in the break room one day, and let's just say it wasn't exactly G-rated. He winced, like he felt guilty just saying it. You knew she was with me, I said quietly. I did. And that's why I backed off. I couldn't stomach it. I even told her once, straight up, you're gonna wreck this guy. He's been nothing but good to you. And she laughed. Said you were too boring to miss her if she left. I clenched my jaw so tight I felt my molars grind. I had given her everything. Every hour of overtime. Every saved dollar. Every ounce of patience and belief. And she thought I was boring? What do you want to do? He asked. I looked at him, and for the first time since this whole mess began, I felt something sharp cut through the fog of betrayal. Not rage. Not bitterness. Just clarity. I want her to know exactly what she threw away. He nodded slowly, like he understood. Like he'd seen that same fire in someone else before. Maybe even in himself. I left that meeting with more than just the truth. I left with a plan forming in the back of my mind. And it wasn't just about Emily anymore. It was about her mom, too. Because Emily might have been toxic, but her mom? She was the architect. The quiet puppeteer behind the curtain. The woman who smiled through her teeth and always called me dear, while making it clear I'd never be good enough. The one who once told me I'd be lucky if Emily settled for someone like me. Turns out, she'd been meddling behind the scenes for a while now. Poking around in our lives, suggesting to Emily that she should keep her options open, encouraging her to flirt, even offering to introduce her to some lawyer cousin who might be a better fit. All while smiling at me like we were family. I didn't want petty revenge. I didn't want to yell or expose her in some dramatic, messy scene. No, I wanted a quiet burn. One she wouldn't see coming. I called my uncle. He's not a PI or anything dramatic like that. He's an accountant. A very thorough one. And he's helped me with my taxes ever since I started working. What Emily's mom didn't know was that her little side hustle, the consulting business she bragged about, she'd asked me to help her set up a PayPal account for it a year ago. I still had access. And what she didn't know was that she'd been doing a lot of questionable business off the books. The kind that leaves a paper trail if someone's motivated enough to follow it. Just hypothetically, I asked my uncle, what happens if someone's been collecting income and not reporting it for years? He laughed. Hypothetically? The IRS takes that pretty seriously. I told him I had some documentation, some account records, names of clients. And while I didn't say it outright, he understood. He told me he'd take a look purely out of curiosity, of course. Meanwhile, Emily kept digging herself deeper. On the third day of silence, she showed up at my mom's house. My mom refused to let her in. She cried on the porch for 10 minutes before my dad came out and calmly asked her to leave. She yelled, "This is all just a huge misunderstanding. Ryan's overreacting." But I wasn't. I was just getting started. There's one more thing. Something I hadn't planned on, but it fell into my lap like a perfectly timed domino. Remember the trip? The surprise vacation to Vermont? I booked it under both of our names. Cabin. Flights. Even left little notes in the itinerary for her. Dumb, sweet things like "can't wait to see you in the snow" and "our little escape." I thought about canceling it, getting a refund, but then I had a better idea. I changed the reservation. Just one name now. And I invited someone else to come with me. Not a rebound. Not a date. Just someone who deserved it more than she ever did. But I'll get to that. Because the next morning, everything changed. The next morning started like any other: overcast sky, birds pecking at the feeder outside my parents' kitchen window, the smell of strong coffee drifting through the house. I was sitting at the table, half scrolling through my phone, when my mom walked in with this weird look on her face. Like she wasn't sure whether to laugh or panic. "You're gonna want to see this," she said, sliding her phone across the table. It was a Facebook post from Emily's mom, public, not even locked behind a privacy setting. The post was long and dramatic, written like a poorly scripted soap opera monologue. It started with, "Some people don't understand what it means to love unconditionally," and spiraled into a full-blown rant about betrayal, emotional manipulation, and how certain boys were spreading lies and trying to destroy her daughter's reputation out of jealousy and bitterness. She didn't use my name, but she didn't have to. The comments were even worse. People chiming in with things like, "You raised such a beautiful soul," and "Men can be so immature, SMH. One person even said, "She dodged a bullet if you ask me." I didn't recognize the names, friends of the family, probably. But it didn't matter. The post had over 300 reactions by noon. I laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. It was that hollow, "UVE got to be kidding me" kind of laugh. I was still reeling from what Brandon told me the day before, still waiting to hear back from my uncle, and now this woman was out here painting me like the villain in her melodrama? But part of me expected this. I knew people like her didn't go down quietly. She was playing defense now, trying to control the narrative. Which meant she was scared. Good. What she didn't know was that I had receipts. Literal ones. I went into my email archive and dug out everything, screenshots of text from Emily where she hinted at her mom's interference, transaction logs from the PayPal account I helped set up for her consulting, messages she sent me asking to forget about those extra payments for now. It was all there. Neat, time-stamped, quietly damning. I didn't plan to use it, yet. But just having it gave me this quiet sense of power. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't the one on the back foot. Around lunchtime, Brandon texted me again. He'd done some digging on his end, talking to a few coworkers he trusted. What he found? Even worse than I expected. Turns out Emily wasn't just talking trash about me to Travis, the marketing guy. She was actively shopping around for a new relationship like it was a job hunt, telling people she was emotionally done with me but still hanging on until she found a better fit. Apparently, she even asked one of her friends to set her up with some finance bro who drives a Tesla. While we were still together, Brandon sent me a voice note. Dude, she used you like a springboard. No respect. No guilt. I don't even think she feels bad, just embarrassed she got caught. That hit different. It's one thing to be hurt, betrayed, but to know the person who hurt you felt nothing about it? That she didn't cry when I walked out, not for me, but for the security she lost? That burned. I sat with that for a while. Didn't respond. Just let the truth marinate. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed again. This time it was from Sarah, the same friend of Emily's who messaged me the night everything blew up. She asked if I could meet her. Said she had something to tell me, but didn't want to send it over text. I hesitated for a moment. Part of me wanted to be done with everyone even remotely connected to Emily. But something in her message felt different. Like maybe she was carrying something heavy too. We met at a quiet diner. She showed up in a hoodie and sunglasses, like she didn't want to be recognized. She sat down across from me, ordered tea, and sighed like she hadn't slept in a week. I don't know why I'm doing this, she said, but I can't keep watching her get away with it. I didn't say anything. I just waited. She's been cheating on you for longer than you think, she said. It wasn't just Travis. And it wasn't just flirting. She had a full-on thing with a guy from her gym. His name's Evan. They were hooking up back in December. I found out when she accidentally posted a video on her private story. She deleted it within seconds, but I saw it. I confronted her, and she told me to mind my business. I felt that weird twist in my chest again. I'd suspected Travis. But another guy? She doesn't care about anyone but herself, Sarah went on. She talks about people like they're tools. Like they're disposable. I think she only stayed with you because you were stable. Reliable. You were her safety net. That hit harder than I thought it would. Sarah looked at me for a long moment. I wanted you to know you're not crazy. You're not overreacting. And you deserve better than someone who uses people like ladders. I nodded. I didn't know what else to say. When I got home, I opened up my laptop and looked at the Vermont trip again. The cabin rental was beautiful. Isolated. Quiet. A real retreat. And in that moment, I knew exactly who I was taking. Not a new girl. Not someone I was trying to impress. My little sister, Lily. She's 16, loves the snow, and has been dealing with her own stress from school and our family's drama. She used to look up to Emily, thought she was cool and stylish. Lately, she'd been asking questions about why we broke up, if it was her fault, if I was okay. And every time she asked, I wanted to cry. She didn't deserve to be caught in the crossfire of someone else's selfishness. So I called her. Hey, I said, you still have that snow jacket you like? She hesitated. Yeah. Want to go to Vermont with me next week? Just you and me. Snow, hot chocolate, maybe build a snowman if we feel like it. There was a beat of silence. Then the softest, happiest little yes I'd heard in a long time. I smiled for the first time in days. That night, I started putting the rest of my plan together. The evidence, the messages, the final pieces. Not for drama, not for revenge in the explosive, petty sense, but to end this the right way. I was going to let Emily and her mother burn their own bridges, one matchstick at a time. And I was going to make sure everyone saw exactly who they really were when the smoke cleared. The week leading up to the Vermont trip moved slowly, but deliberately. Every text from mutual friends, every Facebook post from Emily's mom, every concerned message trying to nudge me toward reconciliation, it all started to blur together into this surreal background noise. I didn't respond. Not once. Silence became my greatest weapon. I wasn't dodging conflict. I was choosing not to play their game. My uncle finally called back 3 days before the trip. His voice was calm, measured, but I could tell he'd been sitting on something heavy. Ryan, I took a good look at those documents, he said. She's been underreporting income for years. Thousands. Possibly tens of thousands. My stomach turned. Like, enough for the IRS to care? Oh, definitely, he said. I'm not saying you should do anything with this, but if someone were to submit it anonymously, there's enough for them to launch an audit. Maybe even some penalties. I didn't say anything right away. The idea of turning her mom in, it felt nuclear. Extreme. But then I thought about all the lies. The public smear campaign. The way she'd guilt-tripped my mom and sent nasty messages to my cousin. The way she enabled her daughter to manipulate me and probably dozens of others. And most of all, the way she acted like none of it would ever come back to her. I thanked my uncle and told him I'd think about it. The night before the trip, I stopped by our old apartment. Emily had been forced to move back in with her mom after I cut ties and canceled the lease. I'd left a few boxes of stuff behind, things I hadn't wanted to deal with. She'd been messaging mutual friends to tell me she was going to drop it all off, but I decided I'd grab it myself. I didn't go in. I just waited in the parking lot, and her brother, who I'd always gotten along with, came out and loaded it into my trunk. He didn't say much, just handed me a folded note with my name on it and muttered, "She's a mess, man." I'm sorry. I opened the note when I got home. It was Emily's handwriting. "Ryan, I know you hate me right now, and maybe I deserve it. I said awful things. I was stupid and selfish and scared. You were always too good to me, and I didn't know how to handle it. I never thought you'd actually leave. I always thought you'd stay. I took advantage of that. I'm sorry. I miss you. Please talk to me. Just once." There was no mention of the other guys. No mention of her mom. No mention of what I'd heard with my own ears. Just a carefully crafted blend of guilt, nostalgia, and soft regret. A note designed to pull at my heart, to make me doubt myself. I folded it back up and tossed it in the trash. The next morning, Lily and I headed to Vermont. The drive was long, snowy, and quiet in the best way. She spent most of the ride humming along to the music, her face pressed to the window, watching the world blur by in white and gray. When we got to the cabin, she stepped out of the car and said, "This feels like a movie." I smiled. Better than any movie I've seen. We spent the next few days skiing, drinking hot cocoa, making snowmen, and staying up too late watching corny old horror movies. She opened up about her school stress, about feeling like she was caught in the middle of adult drama, and I promised her that no matter what happened, I was going to be someone she could count on. I think she needed to hear that as much as I needed to say it. And when she went to bed each night, I sat by the fire and drafted a letter. Not to Emily, not to her friends, to the IRS. Anonymously, of course. I attached the documentation. Dates, names, the PayPal logs. Everything she'd never imagined someone like me would hold on to. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about accountability. If Emily's mom wanted to play the part of the perfect, untouchable matriarch, she could do it with an audit hanging over her shoulder. I never told Emily what I did. I didn't gloat. I didn't send a message. I didn't need to. A month later, word quietly started circulating that her mom was dealing with some legal stuff. A friend of mine in finance said she'd been asking around about accountants who know how to clean up a mess. Meanwhile, I went back to work, took fewer overtime shifts, started saving again, this time for myself, for things I wanted. I reconnected with some old friends, picked up a guitar I hadn't touched in years, and even signed up for a community course in design, something I used to love before I let work swallow me. Emily kept posting cryptic, dramatic quotes on social media. Stuff like, "Sometimes we ruin the best things because we don't believe we deserve them, and healing isn't linear." She messaged me once from a new number. I didn't open it. I didn't need to, because I finally understood something. I hadn't been a loser. I hadn't been pathetic. I'd been loyal. I'd been giving. I'd been steady in a storm someone else created. And now, I was done being someone's stepping stone. Let her climb elsewhere.